Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind association as we continue to associate with Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 7, verses 1 to 12, scheduled incarnations with specific functions. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Satavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishwakan Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Shivadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastatya Disatavine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare सर्वशास्त्र वियुषा सर्ववैदेक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांतरात्नाद्य सर्वलोकाय त्रिप्रदा सर्वभागवत प्राणा श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभु कलिद्वंदोदिदादित्य Shri Krishna Parivartita, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendent fruit of all the Vedas, O you enriched with jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varshasharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone for your incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madekabando Matsangim Madguru Manmahadana Manishtaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu tadahi natini chochataraka hanamanchakada chinmam premnarit kateospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to the unsaintly, uplift to the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest in Mahatma throat, accompanied by love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yathonvayaditarata Charte Swabhigna Swara Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Mrisha Damna Swena Sada Nirastakwakam Satyam Param Dhimai. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading person out of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance to you. I meditate on Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, original being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed in illusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him did material universe is temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of nature appear effectual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is absolute truth. Prayanalpayasha sabya kalavasmin yuge jana manda summanda matayo manda bhagyupadrita. O learned one, in the signage of Kali men but short lives, they are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all is disturbed. Narayan namaskritya narachevam narottamam devim saraswati vyasam tato jaya mudiret. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Nara and Narayan Vishnu, the supreme human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasa, the author. Savaipum soparodharmo yato bhaktira dokchaje ahituki apratiyata yayatma suprasiddhati. Supreme occupation dharma for all humanities, that by which man can attain to loving devotional service. Such devotional service loving devotional unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service was unmotivated and uninterrupted, completely satisfied the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Chus Vairagyam Jnanam Tayadahitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of God, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires, causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedantita Tattva Vedas Tattvam Yat Gnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth called this non-dual substance, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Shri Shoshadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punyakrita Nishebanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees completely freed from all vice, great services done. By such service, one gains divinity by hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranmatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryadantostoya Badrani Vidunoti Sritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of true devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotees, develop the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues, properly heard and chanted. Nasta Prashu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular attendance in the classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Vyam Sarva Swadharma Parinishtaya Janmalabha Parapum Samante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of God at the end of life. Akama sarvakamo va mokshakamo udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. A person who has broad intelligence, whether he be full of all material desires, without any material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship supreme whole, the personality of God. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of the Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna and welcome again. Let us cover any feedback you may have from last week's session, verses Chapter 6, verses 31 to 46. Anything that caught your attention, anything that you found interesting, please share that in the chat. Dhamavati Radhika and Nalini Kanta says, Hare Krishna, the best thing for us is to surrender unto Krishna. Krishna shares his opulences with us. Krishna is happy to share. Krishna's heart only knows love, compassion, and kindness. Whatever Srila Prabhupada says, does, and think is absolute. Our allegiance is to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada brought us to Krishna, so we are always indebted and grateful to Srila Prabhupada. We must keep that connection alive because Srila Prabhupada saved us. Yes. Srila Prabhupada is our life and soul. Prabhupada created our good fortune by giving us Krishna. Lord Krishna created our good fortune by giving us Prabhupada, and Prabhupada created our good fortune by giving us Krishna. And through that process, he has given us so many other gifts, inconceivable number of gifts, devotee friendships, temples, deities, prasadam, kirtan, the Bhagavatam, so many transcendental gifts Srila Prabhupada has bestowed upon us. Just one gift, we would not be able to repay Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada has given us an inconceivable number of gifts. And therefore, we are not just indebted. We're not just doubly indebted. We're not just triply indebted. We are indebted eternally, multiple times. Shamananda Prabhu says, all glories to Lord Brahma, the father of all fathers, and from whom we should take instruction. Wonderful how Srila Prabhupada glorifies Lord Brahma in the purport. If the house is blazing with the fire, you get out. Material world is also blazing. We should get out now. Yes. Leave all other auxiliary questions aside. There's a time and place for all questions. Right now, it's about inquiring about the absolute truth and getting into action to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All other aspects really has no substantial bearing. It has a bearing, but no substantial bearing. Time is of an essence. So the more time we focus and narrow down to remembering the name, glories, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the better. Srila Prabhupada's power statement from verse 36, and the living entities being superior energy to matter have choice and discrimination, either to surrender unto the Lord or to surrender unto material nature. So what we have, everything that exists in creation, all the resources, and all of the abilities we have, they all come from Krishna. The only thing you have, the only thing you can claim proprietorship over, to say, this is mine, I own this, I'm the owner. You only have two things that Prabhupada was mentioning here that belongs to you. That is yours. Choice and discrimination. You can choose. You have the power to discriminate. It's your choice and it's your power of discrimination. You've decided, according to your discrimination, you've made a choice, that's yours. That you can claim. And Krishna, Lord Krishna does not take ownership of that. He will give you full independence for your discrimination and your choice. And because this is your choice, guess what follows? Please type in the chat. Because it's your choice, what follows? Your choice, what would follow? Consequences? Yes. And whose consequences? Who's accountable? Who's responsible? Because it's your choice, therefore, it's your responsibility. You're accountable. Yeah. So whatever consequence come out of your choices, you take full accountability, full responsibility. It is up to you then to embrace the consequence and do as you wish with the consequences. Result of your choice, equal opposite reaction. If you don't choose according to Krishna's desire, then there will be an opposite reaction, unfavorable reaction, or reaction that you have to learn from. But if you choose a choice that is aligned to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, that's pleasing to Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, pleasing to the Supreme Lord, then that is favorable for your devotion. So, therefore, we have to choose wisely. And Srimad Bhagavatam is polishing our power of discrimination so that we can discriminate properly. It's polishing our intelligence so that we can decide properly. Robert continues, by surrendering unto the Lord, one is happy and liberated. But by surrendering unto material nature, the living entity suffers. Broadly, those are the two categories. Every other form of consequence falls in these two categories. Just like you make a wrong choice, and you get cancer. So that just falls in the category of material nature. So like that, different categories, two categories. So the end of all suffering means surrendering unto the Lord, because the surrendering process itself is bhavachidam, liberation from all material miseries. Swastya yanam, perception of all happiness, and sumangalam, the source of everything auspicious. Madhachana Siddhi says, Hare Krishna, even if we place a little faith in Srimad Bhagavatam, this faith will surely increase and increase. Yes. Any amount of energy in the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this goes to our eternal credit and helps build, helps increase our surrender, our devotion, our faith, our attachment. So making time to hear about the glories of Krishna is very, very important for us, because otherwise life does not wait for anyone. Life just keeps ticking. Life just keeps going. And things happen, and before you know it, it's time to leave and start again if we have not perfected. So, yes, we need to really put time, make time. And the more we understand Krishna consciousness, automatically our priorities begin to shift. Because everything in this world is important. But in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then things become more important in relation to Krishna, less important in relation to Krishna, and not important in relation to Krishna. So in this way, we need to make time to hear the glories of the Supreme Lord. Last week, we heard how Lord Brahma was instructing Narad Muni that the basis of this material world, its creation, its sustenance, and its destruction, is all on the potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. It is by his potency that everything exists, is maintained, sustained. And Lord Brahma also was making the point that it's inconceivable to know all the glories of Krishna. And then Lord Brahma then concludes that he is going to share with Narad Muni on the incarnations, which he says is very pleasing to hear and are to be relished. So when we hear these incarnations, descriptions of incarnations, you will find, like for example, in my case, I'll read these incarnations and nothing, let's say, emotionally, nothing stirs up. It's not like I'm relishing these pastimes, finger licking good, that type of relish. It's like you want to drink more and more. That is not there. It's pleasing to hear. So we're hearing it, so the glories of Krishna, different pastimes. So depending on our level of purification and our level of attachment to the Supreme Lord, when we hear these different pastimes, which are going to be covered, close to 39 different incarnations are going to be covered. And Lord Brahma says that these incarnations that he's going to share, they will counteract the foul matters accumulated in the ears. I was speaking about relishing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if one does not have a taste, one will get kicked out of Zoom. Since I'm the host, Zoom felt sorry for me. Okay, I'm back in action. So yes, the taste is not there. But the reason for that is because of all the foul things that we've accumulated in our ears for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. Just like, if there is a machinery, a part that's part of a big machine that deals with grease. Now, when you buy that machine brand new, there's no grease. Then let's say on the first day when that machine is used, there's grease that's applied and it's still brand new and it's a little slippery because of the grease. But if you now use that machine for 10 years without cleaning, with all that grease, after 10 years, you find that grease is thick and black. And if you now cleanse that machine, you don't need it's not just like one stroke of your cloth that grease will come out. No, that grease will be thick on the parts of the machine. It will take some time, maybe few cleaning efforts to remove that thick layer of grease that have accumulated. So like that, over time, so much impurities have accumulated on our consciousness that when we expose to the glories of the Bhagavatam, which is nectar to the ears, we do not relish it. So even though we're not relishing it like that, because these pastimes, because Lord Brahma says that these pastimes will remove that foul matter, it starts to purify and starts to cleanse. And in this way, as the cleansing process happens, slowly, 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 a taste begins to manifest. So this is why constant hearing is not something that should be done. It's good to do. No, it's a necessity. It's compulsory. If you want to get purified, hearing about the glories of Krishna's pastimes, hearing about his name, form, pastimes, qualities, this is a must. There's no second option. And to the degree we spend time sincerely, earnestly hearing, to that degree the purification happens. Otherwise, we can go on and on and on and on and on, engaging in devotional service or in Krishna consciousness and not dive deeper and not develop an attachment or great taste for hearing and chanting the pastimes of Krishna. So these pastimes, as we go through, yes, we may know them, but we may not be entering into them. We may not be realizing them. So therefore, we may, let's say, go through this chapter once, and we go through this chapter again and again and again and again and again. And even if we have to go through these chapters or even the whole Bhagavatam for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes to eternity, each lifetime that we hear the Bhagavatam, we will just increase our relish. We'll experience greater bliss, greatest fulfillment, greater satisfaction at each reading. We'll even experience newer and newer realizations at each reading in each lifetime. This is the nature of the Bhagavatam, the nature of Krishna consciousness. So let us, now we're going to start these various incarnations of the Lord, and we're going to try to go to 12 verses. Text 1. Brahmo vacha yatra dayata shititalodara naya bibrat krodim tanum sakala yagnamayim mananta antar mahar nava upagatam adidatyam tam dam Rishyadrim iva vrajadarodara dadara. Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodaka, the first demon, Hiranyaksha, appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk. Purport. Since the beginning of creation, the demons and the demigods, or the Vaishnavas, are always the two classes of living beings to dominate the planets of the universes. But Brahma is the first demigod, and Hiranyaksha is the first demon in this universe. Only under certain conditions do the planets float as weightless balls in the air. And as soon as these conditions are disturbed, the planets may fall down into the Garbhodaka ocean, which covers half of the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary system exists. The floating of the planets in the weightless air is due to the inner constitution of the globes. And the modernized drilling of the earth to exploit the oil within is a sort of disturbance by the modern demons and can result in a greatly harmful reaction to the floating condition of the earth. Prabhupada is giving us a warning. Right now, the demons, Prabhupada says, modern demons, they are drilling. All over the planet, they are drilling, extracting oil, extracting resources. They are destroying mountains, taking the gold, jewels, diamonds. So they're digging all these things out. This is unnatural. And because this is unnatural, these things create a balance so that the earth can stay in orbit. Now, if you start drilling and start creating an imbalance, there will be a consequence. What the consequence will be, only Krishna knows. So don't be surprised if tomorrow the planet just falls out of orbit. Prabhupada says a similar disturbance was created formerly by the demons headed by Hiranyaksha, the great exploiter of the gold rush. And the earth was detached from its weightless condition and fell down into the Garbha ocean. So this was right at the time of creation. This demon created a disturbance. So this can also happen. Therefore, again, do not postpone your Krishna consciousness because there may not be a planet left. You may be trying, in the situation, and all of a sudden the planet ceases to exist and you're out of this planet into another universe and you're starting from, nappy wood, back to your nappies, back to school, and life starts again. So Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, anything auspicious, we should do that immediately. Anything inauspicious, we should postpone as long as possible. In Kali Yuga, the materialists, they do this opposite. They'll embrace everything auspicious and they'll embrace everything inauspicious. And when you tell them do anything, they'll embrace anything that's inauspicious. And when you tell them to embrace something auspicious, no, I took no time, busy, and I have this. Then when I finish, this is the materialists. But as devotees, we want to use our time valuably in Krishna consciousness. The drilling of oil, etc., can also cause other secondary disturbances. The Lord, as the maintainer of the whole creation of the material world, therefore assumed the gigantic form of a boar with a proportionate snout and picked up the earth from within the water of Garbha. So Varadev appeared, sniffed the earth planet, and picked it up. Jayadev Goswami, a great poet, sung as follows. Vashati dashanashi pare dharani tavalagna shashini kalanka kevalani magna keshavadrita sukararupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. O Keshava, O Supreme Lord, who have assumed the form of a boar, O Lord, the planet Earth rested on your tusk, and it appeared like the moon engraved with spots. Such is the symptoms of an incarnation of the Lord. The incarnation of the Lord is not the concocted idea of fanciful men who create an incarnation out of imagination. Now, if you have experience, you'll know in India, this is the situation. This is how they create incarnations. The incarnations of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances, like the above mentioned occasion. And the incarnations perform a task which is not even imaginable by the tiny brain of mankind. The modern creators of many cheap incarnations may take note of the factual incarnation of God as the gigantic boar with a suitable snout to carry the planet Earth. So the Lord doesn't just appear. And we see this again and again in his pastimes. It's not like there's difficulty and then the Lord appears. No. Or somebody is suffering and now the Lord will appear. No. There has to be an extraordinary circumstance. We find every incarnation. Let's take, for example, Ravana. When Lord Ram appeared, Ravana was already present on the planet. And he was creating havoc. But that havoc wasn't the limit of all havocs. Therefore, the Lord carried on his pastimes of growing up, going to Gurukul. Even though Ravana was trying to control, but it wasn't extraordinary enough. When Ravan started becoming practically in charge of the universe, controlled all the demigods, even then, it wasn't extraordinary enough. When he kidnapped Sita Devi and the demigods, that became now extraordinary. And now Ravan's time was limited. When Kamsa was on the planet, Kamsa was also creating havoc, left, right, and center. He was sending so many demons, left, right, and center. But only at a certain time did the Lord kill him. Now, someone may ask, if he's creating so much havoc, why doesn't the Lord immediately vanquish him, if just when he's born, even before he's born, know that he's going to be a demon. Let's just kill him right there and there. Still born, right in the womb. But no. Why? Because karma has to still play out. Everyone still need to get their due karma. The Lord still uses devotees to show tolerance. All these lessons, they come out in these circumstances. So in our case also, we can't just expect that, oh, now I'm Krishna conscious for 5 years and I will see the spiritual world and I'll see Krishna and Radha and Krishna and I'll be perfect. No. Prabhupada gives the example, gold is purified more and more in heat, intense heat. The impurities, they come out. So like that, we will also have to go through the process of due purification. And time is crucial for that. Prabhupada also says that when the Lord comes, he also performs extraordinary tasks, not just some creating, some gold or even like removing somebody's disease. That even a doctor can do. Make somebody fly. Well, the planes can do that. So, just incarnations, these imitation incarnations that have some mystic powers. Vibhikishan, he could cure diseases, he could give gold and wealth, and this is child's play. This is not the incarnations we're talking about. Lifting Govardhan Hill. That's extraordinary. To curb Indra's pride. Expending himself, Krishna expending himself into as many coward boys and calves that were there to curb the illusion of Lord Brahma. So I like that, so many extraordinary tasks. Speaking Bhagavad Gita, the timeless, immortal wisdom that is practical eternally. When the Lord appeared in order to pick up the earth, a demon of the name Hiranyaksha tried to create a disturbance in the methodical functions of the Lord. Therefore, he was killed by being pierced by the Lord's task. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the demon Hiranyaksha was killed by the hand of the Lord. Therefore, his version is that after being killed by the hand of the Lord, the demon was pierced by the task. Srila Vishwan Chakravarti Thakur confirms this version. So there's this fight going on between Hiranyaksha and Lord Varadev. And the Lord killed him with his hands and then pierced him with his tusk. Text 2. Jato rucher ajana yat sumaman suyagna akuti sunur amaran atadakshinayam lokatrayasya mahitim aharad yat artim swayam bhuve namanuna hari ityuk hari ityak nuktam. The Prajapati first begot Suyagya in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyagna begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Suyagna as the Indradev diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu. In order to guard against the invention of unauthorized incarnations of God by the fanciful, less intelligent persons, the name of the father of a bona fide incarnation is also mentioned in the authorized revealed scriptures. So you'll see this is a general practice in the Vedas. Every incarnation that's mentioned, their parents' names are mentioned, the activities are mentioned. No one, therefore, can be accepted as an incarnation of the Lord if his father's name, as well as the name of the village or place in which he appears, is not mentioned by the authorized scriptures. So if somebody claims that, yes, this is the incarnation of God, it has to be in scripture. We do not accept any incarnation that is not described in scripture. An incarnation is not an ordinary person. So, because he's not ordinary, he is the Supreme Lord. He's a very special person. Therefore, the descriptions will be there in the Vedas. And especially all the important incarnations, they're definitely there. Because the Lord can incarnate anywhere and give mercy. But those that are scheduled, those that are very prominent, those that are important, those that are coming for very important mission, they definitely will be there in the Vedas. We find when Srijat Mahaprabhu's appearance is described in so many of the scriptures, his name is described, his parents' name are described, where he's going to appear, his activities, what he's going to do. All this is described. Same thing with Krishna, same thing with all the other incarnations. In the Bhagavad Puran, the name of Kalki, incarnation, which is to take place in almost 400,000 years, is mentioned along with the name of his father and the name of the village in which he will appear. In fact, so much, there's a whole scripture, Kalki Puran, that describes his whole life. It's like forthcoming attraction. Who's his parents? Ways how he's going to be raised? Who his guru is going to be? What he's going to learn? What he's going to teach? What he's going to do? So, if that's described, if Kalki was going to only appear in another 400,000 years, if his glories are described as an incarnation, what to talk about anybody else that would have appeared or would be appearing? A sane man, therefore, does not accept any cheap edition of an incarnation without reference to the authorized scriptures. One time, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was giving a talk, and he was glorifying, some Krishna in the lecture, and then at the end, somebody in the audience he raises his hand and says, "Swamiji, thank you very much. You are glorifying my qualities." It's like, I'm the incarnation, you're glorifying me. Radhanath Swami says, we pay our respects to you, Hare Krishna. So you get these insane people. This is the material world. The reason we came here was because of envy. Or at least one of the reasons, main reason, because of envy. We envied Krishna's position. And generally, envying somebody's position means you wanted that position, you need that position, you desire that position. Therefore, you envy someone. Why did they get it? I supposed to get that. So subtly, we all are taking Krishna's place. And because we taking Krishna's place, we also want to take his rightful claim as the proprietor, as the enjoyer, as the benefactor, as the controller. And then you get those who really broadcast it, like, yeah, I'm God. And we have to understand that Krishna is not threatened. Krishna at no time feels threatened. Why? Because scripture says again and again, God is that person who has no equal and no one above. And because Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, supreme personality of Godhead, has no equal and no one above, then Krishna, he doesn't need to fear. It's not like you're a threat. Somebody who claims to be God is caught in the last snare of Maya. That's the last trap, to think you are God. 3. Jagne chakadama grihe dvijadeva hutyam stribhi samanava viratma gatim somatre ucheyayatma samalam gunasanga pankam asmin viduya kapilasya gatim prapadde. The Lord then appeared as Kapila incarnation, being the son of the Prajapati Brahmana Kardama and his wife, Devahuti, along with 9 other women, sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which in that very lifetime, she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila. This, and we will actually come in the 3rd canto, we will hear about Kadama and Devahuti, about Kapila, we will hear about these great personalities. And we see so for some reason today our internet's not behaving, but at least we can continue with the show and the association with the Bhagavatam. Little tolerance. So even though these are great personalities, their life is very, very instructive. Here we see Mother Devahuti being instructed by Lord Kapila Dev, embraced the process that Lord Kapila Dev was giving. And what was that? What was the essence of that process? The essence of that process was to be cleansed of all the mud of the material modes. In essence, if you see, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us a process. And what's the essence of that process? Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the cleansing of our heart. So that is why we embracing the process of Krishna consciousness, all the aspects of Krishna consciousness, whether it's devotional service, of practically engaging in different services, of hearing and chanting, of remembering the Lord, of serving the devotees, serving the mission. We're doing that. Why? Because I want to be cleansed. My chitta, my consciousness need to be cleansed. Because as long as the consciousness is dirty, I cannot see clearly. I cannot see the Supreme Lord. So the process of Krishna consciousness is really about first and foremost cleansing myself. Only when I'm cleansed does the revelation, my identity, my relationship with Krishna manifest. Otherwise, it's not going to. And the duration of that cleansing is relative to each one of us, both in terms of our past, how much impurities we've accumulated, and the sincerity and seriousness by which we apply the process. At the same time, immaterial of even those two factors, if the Lord wants to purify you in an instant, you will be purified in an instant. If the Lord wants to purify you of all your karma at the time of death, the Lord will purify at the time of death. There's no time consideration for the Lord. He just has to desire and think, and you are purified. So therefore, the other ulterior motive or reason we're engaging in devotional service, besides to please Krishna, is really to attract Krishna's grace, Krishna's mercy. When we attract Krishna's mercy and we get his mercy, then that mercy can act wonderfully on our consciousness. We can also take it that if I accept that I'm Krishna's and Krishna is the controller, he has always been in charge and will always be in charge as the supreme controller. And if I have truly accepted my identity as a servant of Krishna, then all I do is, as we heard last week, I simply surrender. And when I simply surrender, I leave the result up to the Lord. I may have aspirations, but I leave the result up to him. Because he knows everything. And whatever he wants me to go through, I accept that wholeheartedly as his mercy. And continue my service to his lotus feet. So therefore, when one has that attitude, then it doesn't matter in terms of time. And with this attitude, it's not about delaying the process of Krishna consciousness. No, I'm fully surrendering to Krishna. I'm fully giving my life to him. And I'm leaving my life in his care. He will do as he pleases because I'm the servant. The master will do as he pleases with the servant for the benefit of the servant. And when we have that consciousness, then we have no anxiety. Because whatever we're receiving, we accept that, yes, this is Krishna's mercy. For whatever reason, he knows I need this. This is for my benefit. And I accept it as Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada in the purport says, the instructions of Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti are fully described in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapters 25 and 32. And anyone who follows the instructions can achieve the same liberation obtained by a devotee. This is the beauty of the Bhagavatam. That these instructions are not isolated for time, certain age, certain period. No. These are eternal principles that if we follow, we can achieve the same result. The Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita, and thereby Arjuna achieved self-realization. And even today, anyone who follows the path of Arjuna can also attain the same benefit as Sri Arjuna. Sometimes people ask, are these scriptures practical? Are they relevant in today's world? Are they relevant? How much more relevance do you want? They're absolutely relevant at every point in time. Because these teachings were never originated in time. And because they never originated in time, they are not bound by time. Any scripture that's originated in time is influenced by time. It has a beginning and end. The teachings of Krishna consciousness, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, they are beyond time. The scriptures are meant for this purpose. Foolish, unintelligent persons make their own interpretation by imagination and thus mislead their followers, causing them to remain in the dungeons of material existence. However, simply by following the instructions imparted by Lord Krishna or Lord Kapila, one can obtain the highest benefit even today. So when we hear these instructions from Bhagavad Gita, they're not there just to be educated, just to stimulate your intelligence, just to spend some, pass some time, give you something to do, give you something to study. No. When we are going through the Bhagavatam systematically, it's not just because we got nothing else to do on Saturday. No. The reason we go through Bhagavad Gita, the reason we study Bhagavad Gita, the reason we study the Bhagavatam, we go through the Bhagavatam, is so that we can gain wisdom of these instructions. Because by following these instructions, note Prabhupada says, however, simply by following, not so much by knowing, but by following. These instructions are meant to be followed. You can only follow when you are convinced and you have the potency to apply. That potency comes from purity. The stronger our association that gives us that purity, that force, we can then apply. Otherwise, on our own, we may not be able to apply them effectively. So therefore, association is also very, very important in trying to apply these principles. And we may not apply everything. If we had to apply everything, we'd be pure devotees in an instant. But we can try to apply as many of these instructions in our life as possible. Surrender has 6 aspects. One is to accept things favorable, and the other to reject things unfavorable. So the more we're accepting these instructions that are favorable, the more we are surrendering to the Supreme Lord. So it's an ongoing journey of surrender. But Prabhupada is giving us hope that if we apply these teachings, we will obtain the highest benefit that is available to be obtained. Most people don't even know what's the highest goal, what's the highest benediction. They have some concept and then they strive for it to achieve it. And then when they achieve it, they find, oops, I thought this was the goal. It looks like there's some vacuum in my heart. I still need something. Then they think, okay, maybe it's this. Then they strive to get that. When they get that, they find, well, I'm still not satisfied. It looks like there's something else. And they keep going from one goal to another. Never satisfied. And here we are, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We are not in a maze that we're going from pillar to post, from one place to another, without knowing our destination. We're not even going for the lower goals that are mentioned in the Vedas. We're going for the highest, and Prabhupada is giving clarity of that journey without wasting time on all other preliminary, secondary activities. When different disciples wanted to venture into different avenues, Prabhupada told them, don't waste your time. Because that's what's going to happen ultimately. You're going to be wasting your time. Just focus your attention on Krishna consciousness. That Prabhupada is given. Prabhupada continues, the word Atma Gatim is significant in the sense of perfect knowledge of the Supreme. One should not be satisfied simply by knowing the qualitative quality of the Lord and the living being. One should know the Lord as much as can be known by our limited knowledge. And how much should we know? As much as Prabhupada is giving in his books. It is impossible for the Lord to be known perfectly as he is, even by such liberated persons as Shiva or Brahma. So what to speak of other demigods or men in this world? Still, by following the principles of the great devotees and the instructions available in the scriptures, one can know to a considerable extent the features of the Lord. And in Krishna consciousness, the way Srila Prabhupada had so expertly presented his Bhaktivedanta purports and the knowledge that he has expounded in these beautiful scriptures, the amount of knowledge we know about God is inconceivable compared to other religious systems. It's inconceivable. Yes, there's knowledge in other scriptures. Let's just take, for example, one aspect. So let's just take the aspect of the features of God. In the Bible, there's one statement: God has black hair. That's it. Nothing else. And if you go to the Vedas, there's an ocean. There's an ocean describing the beautiful features of the Supreme Personality of God. If you have to go to the different other scriptures about the activities of God, what does God do in the kingdom of God? It's practically no information. They tell you there's palaces there. It's wonderful there. But what else? What else is God doing there? It's not described. The Vedas, Prabhupada's books, there's an ocean of knowledge. So like that, you can take so many avenues. Krishna's associates. If God is a person, Bible talks about God being a person. The Quran talks about Allah being a person. So these are persons. Okay, so if these are personalities, or if God is a personality, then he must have associates. What is associates? No idea. But in Krishna consciousness, Bhagavatam is revealing all the associates, acharyas, 6 Goswamis. They are revealing so much about Krishna. Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's pets, so many Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's associates. His Lordship Kapila, the incarnation of the Lord, instructed his mother fully about the personal form of the Lord. And thereby she realized the personal form of the Lord and was able to achieve a place in the Vaikuntha Loka, where Lord Kapila predominates. Every incarnation of the Lord has his own abode in the spiritual sky. Therefore, Lord Kapila also has his separate Vaikuntha planet. The spiritual sky is not void. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and in each of them, the Lord predominates by one of the innumerable expansions. And the pure devotees who are there also live in the same style as the Lord and his eternal associates. So every incarnation has their own planet. And everyone that is related to that incarnation stays in that planet with the Lord. Now, here's the wonderful, glorious benediction of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his process, which is chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, when we sincerely follow the process of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and surrender to his process, surrender to him, and perfect our life, we have an eternal relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, we will live eternally with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his abode. But the Lord, being very magnanimous with that relationship, he also gives us another relationship in Krishna Loka. So now you have a relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you also simultaneously have a form in Krishna Loka and a relationship with Krishna and service there. And if you have a relationship, an eternal relationship with any of the incarnations, that relationship would automatically also revive, and you will be in that relationship as well. So in this way, simply by the Hare Krishna mantra, you will get access to your relationship with Krishna, wherever that relationship is. It's like one ticket for all relationships. And it's one ticket plus bonuses. This is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. This is not normal. This is not normal. This doesn't happen in every kalpa. This is only extraordinary because in this age, at this time, because it is the 28th kalpa, 28th day, 28th cycle, which is a very special cycle, where the Swayam Bhagavan Krishna and Swayam Bhagavan Lord Chaitanya appears. Therefore, it is unique. Otherwise, no. When the Lord descends personally or by his personal plenary expansion, such incarnations are called Amsa, Kala, Guna, Yuga, and Manvantara incarnations. And when the Lord's associates descend by the order of the Lord, such incarnations are called Shaktivesh incarnations. But in all cases, all the incarnations are supported by the innumerable statements of the authorized scriptures and not by any imagination of some self-interested propagandists. Such incarnations of the Lord in any of the above categories always declare the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate truth. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is just a process of negation of the form of the Lord from the mundane conception of the Supreme Truth. The living entities, by their very constitution, are spiritually as good as the Lord. And the only difference between them is that the Lord is always supreme and pure, without contamination by the modes of material nature, whereas the living entity are apt to be contaminated by the association of the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So this is the problem with us, jivas, living entities. We are prone, we are marginal, we are prone to be affected by the modes. And note, Robert says all three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, they all three binding. This contamination by the material modes can be washed off completely by knowledge, renunciation, and devotional service. This contamination by the material modes can be washed off completely by knowledge of Krishna consciousness, by renunciation, giving up those things unfavorable in devotional service, and embracing positively the process of devotional service. And this Prabhupada has given us practically and in his books. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate issue. And therefore, those who are directly engaged in devotional service of the Lord not only acquire the necessary knowledge in spiritual science, but also attain detachment from the material connection, and are thus promoted to the kingdom of God by complete liberation, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuya kalpate. Even in the first canto, we heard how by practice of devotional service, Gyan and Vairagya, knowledge and renunciation both take birth. Even in the non-liberated stage, a living entity can be directly engaged in the transcendent loving service of the personality of God, Lord Krishna, or his plenary expansions like Rama and Nishinga. Thus, in proportion to the improvement of such transcendental devotional service, devotee makes definite progress towards Brahma Gatim, Atma Gatim, and ultimately attains Kapilasya Gatim, or the abode of the Lord, without difficulty. So it's not difficult, but in proportion to the improvement of such transcendental service. So yes, we're all engaging in transcendental service. We're all engaging in devotional service, every single one of us. But that is not the perfection. The perfection is, how can I improve? How can I improve it in terms of purity, in terms of pleasing Krishna more and more? Therefore, I need to keep at that devotional practice and try to keep improving more and more and more. And as I keep engaging and improving, then the result will automatically manifest. So we should always try our best to try to improve and offer our best in every way. The antiseptic potency of devotional service to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection even in the present life of a devotee. The antiseptic potency of devotional service to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection in the present life. So yes, that's what we're trying to achieve. Absorption in devotional service. And we know that the standard of the devotional service has to be uninterrupted and unmotivated. That means no break. So the more we practice, the more we become purified, the more we become attached. We keep practicing more, become purified, we become attached. They will, as we progress, you will find more and more you are becoming attached to Krishna. Your life is just molded more around Krishna. Your thoughts just go directly to Krishna. Your activities go more and around Krishna. In this way, your whole life starts to become molded completely and more around the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So this we can gauge in our own practice. And even the secondary activities of Krishna consciousness that we engage in, they're not completely disassociated from Krishna. They're there to help and assist and amplify and engage ourselves in direct activities of Krishna consciousness. But we'll find that our consciousness, our mind, our heart slowly becomes more and more sold out to Krishna. We become addicted to Krishna. A devotee does not need to wait for his next birth for complete liberation. So Prabhupada's blessings are with us. Don't need to wait for next life. If we want, we can achieve it in this life. The blessings is there. The mercy is there. The process is there. The choice is ours. 4. Atrer apatyam abhikang shata ahatushto dato mayaham iti yad bhagavan sadata yad pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha yogardim apur ubaim yadu heya yadyam. The great sage Atri prayed for offspring, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, promised to incarnate as Atri's son, Dattatreya, Datta, the son of Atri. And by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord, many Yadus, Hayayas, etc., became so purified that they obtained both material and spiritual blessings. Transcendental relations between the personality of Godhead and the living entities are eternally established in 5 different affection units, which are known as Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. The sage Atri was related with the Lord in the affectionate Vatsalya Yuma. And therefore, as a result of his devotional perfection, he was inclined to have the personality of Godhead as his son. The Lord accepted his prayer and he gave himself as the son of Atri. Such a relation of sonhood between the Lord and his pure devotees can be cited in many instances. And because the Lord is unlimited, he has an unlimited number of father devotees. Factually, the Lord is the father of all living entities. But out of transcendental affection and love between the Lord and his devotee, the Lord takes more pleasure in becoming the son of a devotee than in becoming one's father. The father actually serves the son, whereas the son only demands all sorts of service from the father. Therefore, a pure devotee who is always inclined to serve the Lord wants him as a son and not as the father. The Lord also accepts such service from the devotee, and thus the devotee becomes more than the Lord. The impersonalist desire to become one with the Supreme Lord, but the devotee becomes more than the Lord, surpassing the desire of the greatest monist. So when we meet somebody, yes, we want to become one with God. We can ask them, is that the highest? Or is there more? If they're open to the idea, can there be more? What's higher than becoming one with God? Becoming one with God or becoming greater than God? Becoming one with God means like equal. Becoming greater than God means you're greater than God. Oh, you can become greater than God? Yes. Who's greater, father or son? Father. So if you become the father of God, you're greater than God. So that's Prabhupada's point. But the devotee becomes more than the Lord, surpassing the desire of the greatest monarchs. Parents and other relatives of the Lord achieve all mystic opulences automatically because of their intimate relationship with the Lord. So even the parents are greater in mystic. If you meet a yogi, the yogi is striving for all the mystic perfections. If you become a parent of God, you got all the mystic perfections there. Such opulences include all details of material enjoyment, salvation, mystic powers. So all bhukti, mukti, and siddhi. These are the three opulences people strive for in this material world. Enjoyment, bhukti, liberation, mukti, and siddhi, perfection, mystic perfection. And the devotee, he gets all these. Therefore, the devotee of the Lord does not seek them separately, wasting his valuable time in life. The valuable time of one's life must, therefore, be fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Then other desirable achievements are automatically gained. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, that when one becomes a devotee, when one becomes Krishna conscious, he's not deprived of the other benefits or goals or opulences that exist. He automatically gets bhukti, mukti, and siddhi just by him engaging in bhakti, process of Krishna consciousness. If somebody engages only in bhukti, material enjoyment, they will fall short and they'll meet a dead end. If somebody engages in mukti, they'll meet a dead end. If somebody engages in siddhi, mystic powers, they'll come to a dead end. Then they'll have to find their way. A devotee who becomes pure and surrendered and has his eternal relationship revived, he gets the benefits of all these automatically. So such a wonderful process, such a wonderful destination. Then the other desirable achievements are automatically gained. But even after obtaining such achievements, one should be on guard against the pitfall of offenses at the feet of the devotees. So here's the warning, that when one becomes a pure devotee, when one is on the path of Krishna consciousness, one may get bhukti, siddhi, and bhukti, mukti, and siddhi. But even at the perfectional stage, one should be very, very careful not to commit offenses at the devotees, because that can destroy everything. The vivid example is Haihaha, who achieved all such perfection in devotional service, but because of his offense at the feet of a devotee, was killed by Lord Parshuram. The Lord became the son of the great sage Atri and became known as Dattatreya. 5. Taptam tapo vivida lokash shishrashame ado sanat swatapasat chatusanobut prakalpa samplava vinastam ihatmatatvam samyak jagada unayo yad achakshat ashak satamam to create different plenary systems, I to undergo austerities and penances. The Lord thus being pleased with me, incarnated in 4 sanas: Sanaka, Sanandan, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, and the 4 sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages. The Vishnu Sahasranam prayers mentioned the Lord's names as Sanat and Sanatanatma. The Lord and the living entities are both qualitatively Sanatan or eternal, but the Lord is Sanatan Tama, or the eternal in the superlative degree. The living entities are positively Sanatana, but not superlatively, because the living entities are apt to fall to the atmosphere of non-eternity. Therefore, the living entities are quantitatively different from the superlative Sanatana, the Lord. The word son is also used in a sense of charity. Therefore, when everything is given up in charity unto the Lord reciprocates by giving himself unto the devotee. Thus, this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Brahmaji wanted to create the whole cosmic situation as it was in the previous millennium. And because in the last devastation, the knowledge of the absolute truth was altogether erased from the universe, he desired that the same knowledge be renovated. Otherwise, there would be no meaning in the creation. In every millennium of creation, transcendental knowledge is a prime necessity if the ever-conditioned souls are to be given a chance for liberation. This mission of Brahmaji was fulfilled by the grace of the Lord when the 4 sanas, namely Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar, appeared as his 4 sons. These 4 sanas were incarnations of knowledge of the Supreme Lord, and as such, they explain transcendental knowledge so explicitly that all the sages could at once assimilate this knowledge without the least difficulty. By following in the footsteps of the 4 Kumaras, one can at once see the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself. So very nicely, the glories of the 4 Kumaras, simply by hearing the instructions, they came to this world to give the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, the knowledge of the Vedas, and wherever they expounded the knowledge to, the sages, they could easily understand. So very wonderful. 6. Dharmasya daksha duhitar ajanishtamutyam narayano nara iti swatapa prabhavam drishtva mano bhagavato niyamavalokpam devyastu anga pritana gatitum nasheko. To exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance, he appeared in the twin forms as Narayan and Nara in the womb of Murti, the wife of Dharma and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companions of Cupid, went to try to break his vows, but they were unsuccessful, for they saw that many beauties like them were emanating from him, personality of Godhead. The Lord, being the source of everything that be, is the original of all austerities and penances also. Great vows of austerity are undertaken by sages to achieve success in self-realization. Human life is meant for such tapasya, with great vow of celibacy or brahmacharya. In the rigid life of tapasya, there is no place for the association of women. And because human life is meant for tapasya, for self-realization, factually human civilization as conceived by the system of Sanatana Dharma, or the school of 4 castes and 4 orders of life, prescribe rigid disassociation from women in 3 stages of life. In the order of gradual cultural development, one's life may be divided into 4 divisions: celibacy, household life, retirement, and renunciation. During the first stage of life, up to 25 years of age, a man may be trained as a brahmachari under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, just to understand that woman is a real binding force in material existence. If one wants to get freedom from material bondage of conditional life, he must be free from the attraction for the form of woman. Woman, or the fair sex, is the enchanting principle for the living entities. And the male form, especially in the human being, is meant for self-realization. The whole world is moving under the spell of womanly attraction. And as soon as a man becomes united with a woman, he at once becomes a victim of material bondage under a tight knot. The desire for lording it over the material world under the intoxication of a false sense of lordship specifically begins just after the man's unification with a woman. The desire for acquiring a house, possessing land, having children, becoming prominent in society, the affection for community and the place of birth, and hankering for wealth, which are all like phantasmagorias or illusory dreams, encumber a human being. And he is thus impeded in his progress towards self-realization, the real aim of life. A brahmachari or boy from the age of 5 years, especially from the higher castes, namely from scholarly parents, brahmanas, administrative parents, kshatriyas, or mercantile or productive parents, vaishyas, is trained until 25 years of age under the care of a bona fide guru or teacher, and under strict observance of disciplines, he comes to understand the value of life, along with taking specific training for a livelihood. The brahmachari is then allowed to go home and enter household life and get married to a suitable. So we see in the purport Prabhupada is sharing the Vedic understanding of the dangers of becoming entangled with the fair sex, the opposite gender, especially in this case, women. Because the 3 ashrams, brahmachari, sannyas, vanaprastha, they prohibit association. At the same time, the training that is given to the brahmachari is suitable for him to then enter into household life, where he can get married and associate with a suitable woman. If that training is not given, then naturally they will fall more and more prey to the obstacles that are there. But there are many brahmacharis who do not go home to become householders, but continue the life of Naishtika brahmacharis without any connection with women. They accept the order of sannyas or the renounced order of life, knowing well that the combination with a woman is an unnecessary burden that checks self-realization. Since sex life is very strong at a certain stage of life, the guru may allow the brahmachari to marry. This license is given to a brahmachari who is unable to continue the way of Naishtika brahmachari, and such discriminations are possible for a bona fide. A program of so-called family planning is needed. A householder who associates with a woman under scriptural restrictions after a thorough training in brahmacharya cannot be a householder like the cats and dogs. Such a householder, after 50 years of age, would retire from the association of women as a vanaprastha, to be retired to live alone without association of women. When the practice is complete, the same retired householder becomes a sannyasi, strictly separate from the woman, even from his married wife. From a study of the whole scheme of the disassociation from women, it appears that a woman is a stumbling block for self-realization. And the Lord appeared as Narayan to teach the principles of womanly disassociation with a vow in life. The demigods, being envious of the austerity of life of the rigid brahmacharis, would try to cause them to break their vows by dispatching soldiers of Cupid. But in the case of the Lord, it became an unsuccessful attempt when the celestial beauties saw that the Lord can produce innumerable such beauties by his mystic internal potency, and that they were consequently no need to be attracted by others externally. There is a common proverb that a confectioner is never attracted by sweetmeats. The confectioner who is always manufacturing sweetmeats has very little desire to eat them. Similarly, the Lord, by his pleasure potency, can produce innumerable spiritual beauties and not be at least attracted by the false beauties of the material creation. One who does not know alleges foolishly that Lord Krishna enjoyed women in his Rasa Leela in Vrindavan, or with his 16,000 married wives at Dwarka. So just a point in regards to Prabhupada, from a scriptural perspective, yes, the association of women, which is what binds people in this material world, is there. And in Calcutta, when Prabhupada was present, Prabhupada was walking with the brahmacharis, morning walk, and the brahmacharis were telling Srila Prabhupada, why must we have women in the temple? These women are disturbing us, and maybe they should find another ashram, or they should go somewhere else. So the brahmacharis were like making these remarks to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada didn't say anything. He didn't respond to the brahmacharis at all. He just carried on walking. And then Prabhupada came to the temple entrance. The door opened, and all the women disciples, the Malati and Kaushalya, all the devotees that were there, they all offered obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. So they stayed behind, preparing, dressing the deities, cleansing the altar, cooking the breakfast offering, preparing Prabhupada's room, etc. So they did all the services. So then Prabhupada entered the temple. All the women disciples, mother disciples that were there, they all offered obeisances. And then Prabhupada looked at the brahmacharis and he said, and if you associate with these women, you will go back to God. So on one hand, we see the Vedas very, very strongly condemning the association of the gender, and that's true. At the same time, Prabhupada empowered his own disciples in Krishna consciousness. Yesterday, Audrey was showing me a clip on all the women inventors in the world. It's interesting how so many of the things we use were invented by women. Like what? The computer. First computer invented by women. The first computer language, COBOL, invented by women. Fridge, invented by women. Washing machine, invented by women. Solar panels, invented by women. Let's can go on. So it's interesting how, and in most cases, it's invented by a woman, exploited by a man with a man's name. So this material world, they exploit women. Prabhupada makes the point, the whole women's liberation movement is started by men who want to exploit women. So we see how the world use women for exploiting and for binding, because they are powerful Shakti, they have a powerful energy. That energy ultimately is coming from material energy. Durga was coming from Srimati Radharani. Prabhupada took both male and female and engaged them both in Krishna consciousness equally, and gave both the opportunity to perfect their lives, which, if you see from a Vedic tradition, is not Vedic. In the Vedic system, for example, only the male would become priests. Even different practices, spiritual practices, only for male. Not that a woman would not achieve perfection, they would serve the husband and they would achieve perfection. But we find Srila Prabhupada, he basically facilitated both male and female, gave both Diksha, first and second, allowed both to serve the deities, allowed both to give class, allowed both to open temples, spread Krishna consciousness, manage the society. So this was Prabhupada's amazing outlook, that he was, even though this is the statements that are made, but he knew that if, because they're all spirit souls, both male and female, they're entrapped in the male body and the female body. So it did not matter what gender you have, what material body you have. And in today's world, we even have the third gender. Like now on the forms, you got male, female, and other. So it doesn't matter whether you have a male form, it doesn't matter if you have a female form, it doesn't matter if you have the other form. The basis and the bottom line is you're not male, you're not female, you're not other. You are a spirit soul, an eternal servant of Krishna. And that means, as a servant of Krishna, if you want to go back to Godhead, you need to become free from the identity of male. You need to become free from the identity of female. You need to become free from the identity of other. And you need to become free from the exploitation, the lording over material nature that comes with these three forms or identities. Whether one is male, female, or other, doesn't matter. And the basis, the foundation, the shackles that bind is sex life. And there may be variations and versions of that. Like Prabhupada even writes in Kali Yuga, they'll even have sex with dogs. So it doesn't matter what form of sex one engages in, it's a form of exploitation. Prabhupada even talks about gross and subtle forms of sex life. So bottom line is, we have to understand the law in material world is to bind people with this force and keep them entangled. Krishna consciousness is all about liberating one from this binding force, which we covered in the previous chapter. Text 7. Kamam dananti kritino nanurosa drishtya rosam dahantam tatena dahantya ashayam soyam yad antaram alampa vishan bibiti kama katam no puna asya manashreyata. Great stalwarts like Lord Shiva can, by their wrathful glances, overcome lust and vanquish him. Yet they cannot be free from the overwhelming effects of their own wrath. Such wrath can never enter into the heart of him, the Lord, who is above all this. So how can lust take shelter in his mind? When Lord Shiva was engaged in severely austere meditation, Cupid, the demigod of lust, threw his arrows of sex desire. Lord Shiva, thus being angry at him, glanced at Cupid in great wrath, and at once the body of Cupid was annihilated. Although Lord Shiva was so powerful, he was unable to get free from the effects of such wrath. But in the behavior of Lord Vishnu, there is no incident of such wrath at any time. On the contrary, Bhrigu Muni tested the tolerance of the Lord by purposely kicking his chest. But instead of being angry at Bhrigu Muni, the Lord begged his pardon, saying that Bhrigu Muni's foot might have been badly hurt because the Lord's chest is too hard. The Lord has the sign of Bhrigu Muni's foot, Bhrigupad, as the mark of tolerance. The Lord, therefore, is never affected by any such kind of wrath. So how can there be any place for lust, which is less strong than wrath? When lust or desire is not fulfilled, there is the appearance of wrath. But in the absence of wrath, how can there be any place for lust? The Lord is known as Aptakam, or one who can fulfill his desires by himself. He does not require anyone's help to satisfy his desires. Just an interesting point is here we'll find many examples like this, where great pure personalities like Lord Shiva are behaving in a way that shows that they're not pure. The Bhagavatam often uses or presents these cases, and we should, and Prabhupada obviously use them to present specific lessons and teachings. So here, for example, Lord Shiva, he became angry and burnt Cupid. And Prabhupada is using that to say, this never happened to Lord Vishnu. And he gives the example of Bhrigu Muni, who came and wanted to test, because the sages wanted to know who's the supreme. Is it Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu? And they were Bhrigu Muni to test. And Bhrigu Muni went to Lord Brahma, and he committed the first offense, mental offense. He did not honor Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma became angry. Then he went to Lord Shiva, performed the second offense, verbal offense. And then he went to Lord Shiva, he went to Lord Vishnu, performed the third greatest offense, physical offense, kicking. So these are the three types of offenses that are highlighted in this pastime: mental offense, verbal offense, and physical offense. If we commit any of these three offenses, the opposite reaction, negative reaction, will be there, and it will also align. If we commit mental offense, we'll get mental offense or mental disturbance. If we commit verbal offense, we'll get verbal reaction. If we commit physical offense, we'll get a physical reaction. At the same time, if it's a Vaishnava, spiritual life can also be hampered. Now, the point was, Prabhupada is using Lord Shiva's incident to prove and glorify that Lord Vishnu never became angry, which means there's no lust. Because anger Anuja means younger brother. Kama means lust. So the younger brother of lust and that means wherever the elder brother goes, the younger brother follows. Wherever calm goes, younger brother follows. So wherever lust is, anger is there. If there is no anger, means there's no lust. Because anger is basically lust that's manifested. Because if you lusty, it's very difficult to detect. Somebody's lusty is very difficult to detect. But when somebody becomes angry, it's very clear to detect. So that lust that becomes disturbed, unfulfilled, manifest in the form of anger. So Lord, the Supreme Lord, Krishna Narayan does not have that. At the same time, Lord Shiva, he is the controller of the mode of ignorance. And therefore, he is also completely in control. He's a pure devotee, Vaishnava Yata Shambhu, which means he's totally transcendental above the modes of material nature. And if he's above the modes of material nature, he is not influenced by the lower modes. Then how is he affected in this case? These are pastimes to teach lessons. We will come in the third canto also, we'll hear about Lord Brahma falling prey to his daughter. These are pastimes where the pure devotees of the Lord, by the will of the Lord, are put into situations where they are exhibiting situations where they're influenced by the modes or activities of conditioned souls simply for us as lessons. Another example is Draupadi. When Draupadi went through her situation, her tragic experience in the gambling match, they asked Lord Krishna, why did we have to go through such an experience? And Lord Krishna told Draupadi is because in your past life, you did not follow the mantra of Purushottam. And therefore you had to go through this. Again, we should see that also as the Lord is using the pure devotee to teach us a lesson. Draupadi is an eternal associate of Krishna. And she is happy as an instrument to go through that role, to go through that experience, firstly to teach surrender, complete surrender, and at the same time to teach the danger of not following the Purushottammas in this pastime. So like that, the Lord uses his eternal associates in different roles. When the Lord is the script writer of Mahabharata, of Ramayana, of all the pastimes, and he needs his associates to act. Yes, everybody would love to have the perfect roles. But in this world, to teach us, we need the good roles and the bad roles. Like Prabhupada, in the first verse we read, Prabhupada says, yes, there's the demigods, the suras, and the asuras. Since the time of creation, this has been the nature. So therefore, even when the Lord comes with his pastimes and his abode to attract us, he has these two aspects, the good and the bad, to teach us. And he's using his pure associates, putting them into situations to reveal the glories and the truths of Krishna consciousness. So we should be very careful to point fingers. Like, oh yeah, just see Lord Shiva, he fell prey, he became angry. Or just see Lord Brahma, he's lusty. We have to be very careful. Okay? Because the Lord is using these associates to teach us. The Lord is unlimited, and therefore his desires are also unlimited. All living entities, but the Lord, are limited in every respect. How then can the limited satisfy the desires of the unlimited? The conclusion is that the absolute personality of Godhead has neither lust nor anger. And even if there is sometimes a show of lust and anger by the absolute, it should be considered an absolute benediction. Yeah. So if Krishna gets upset, no problem. That's his benediction. That's his showering mercy. Sometimes people they have a concept of God, or how can God become angry, or how can God do harm, or how can God act like that. He's God. He's independent. There's many histories that are there in the life of Jesus. Jesus was able to resurrect people from the dead, just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they were having in Srivasangam, when they were having the nocturnal kirtans, one time Srivasa's son died, and he didn't want to disturb the Lord's kirtan. But the Lord, understanding that something was wrong, he stopped, and then he inquired, and then they showed that his son left, and the Lord went and revived the son. So many incidents like that, where the Lord can revive somebody that died. So Jesus also, he revived. He had the power to revive by the mercy of Krishna. And one of his disciples, their girlfriend was killed. And the disciple wanted Jesus to bring her back to life. And Jesus said, it's not time. So naturally, that disciple found it very difficult that, you bring everybody else, others to life. Well, why you can't bring her to life? See, and to reconcile that in one's consciousness is very difficult. Krishna, you gave so much wealth to Sudama, why you can't give me? Or Krishna, you saved Draupadi, why didn't you save me? Or Krishna, you saved Gajendra, why you didn't save me? So like that, we may discuss and debate with Krishna and say it's unfair that you protecting this person and not me, and you're doing this for this person, not me. But that means you do not accept Krishna completely as your Lord and Master, and that you are his servant. If you are his servant, Krishna has full dominion, full right to do as he pleases. And that is full surrender. That's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifies the gopis and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Why? Because they did not worry about how Krishna would respond. Every act was simply for the pleasure of Krishna, whether he responded or not. Even if he responded unfavorably, still they kept the mood of full surrender unconditionally. So this was this aspect of Krishna exhibiting certain lower qualities. This glorifies Krishna. You tell people God, he actually steals. They get bewildered. What do you mean God steals? God's supposed to be truthful. He's supposed to be honest. He's supposed to be good. So now when you say, no, he stole, he lied, the material mind cannot appreciate, cannot understand. No, man, no. This is not God. Whereas for those who understand Krishna, those who are in love with Krishna, when we see Krishna's childhood pastimes, him stealing yogurt, butter, it's so endearing. And yes, there's deeper meanings of why Krishna is going there and stealing butter, but these pastimes are so endearing to the devotees. So as Prabhupada says, when Krishna exhibits these certain qualities, then this is an absolute benediction. In relation to this pastime of Bhrigu Muni kicking the Lord in the chest, and the Lord, he responded, "Oh, I'm very sorry, your foot must have got hurt. Let me massage your foot." But Lakshmi Devi, she did not take it lightly. She was very upset, and she cursed that all the Brahmanas will be poor. And the Lord, he was massaging the foot of Bhrigu Muni, and then he asked Bhrigu Muni, "Please ask for whatever you want. It's like I caused so much harm to you." And Bhrigu Muni said that I want Lakshmi Devi as my daughter. So when Lakshmi Devi now became the daughter of Bhrigu Muni, then that means the Brahmanas were wealthy. So then we find the Lord's pastimes unfold, where the Lord now has to go and get married to Lakshmi Devi. And Bhrigu Muni tries to stop Lakshmi Devi from getting married, stops his daughter from getting married to the Supreme Lord. And then so many pastimes unfold. Ultimately, the Lord does get married to Lakshmi Devi. And Bhrigu Muni understands that what he was trying to do was not right, because he was trying to separate Lakshmi from Narayan, just like Kamsa, like Ravana, trying to separate Sita from Lord. 8. Vedas sapat new dita patribir antirajno balo pisanu pagatas tapase vanani tasma adad dhruva gatim grinate pashano divyastuvanti munayo yaduparyatastat. Being insulted by sharp words spoken by the co-wife of the king, even in his presence, Prince Dhruva, although only a boy, took to severe penances in the forest, and the Lord, being satisfied by his prayer, awarded him the Dhruva planet, which is worshipped by great sages both upward and downward. Purport. When he was only 5 years old, Prince Dhruva, a great devotee and son of Maj Uttanapad, was sitting on the lap of his father. His stepmother did not like the king's petting her stepsons, so she dragged him out, saying that he could not claim to sit on the lap of the king because he was not born out of a womb. The little boy felt insulted by this act of his stepmother. So here we see the act of child abuse. They're also in the Bhagavatam. And any form of abuse to children, makes them traumatized. When children are young, even as they're growing up, from babies, as they're growing up, young boys or young girls, the brain is developing very, very fast. And if there's a negative experience, that gets lodged. And that can stay for them for the rest of their life. It's not cleansed or not cleared out. or not dealt with. Many people, many adults' behavior, let's say, not appropriate behavior, is a result of one's upbringing. For example, if parents give children, kids, a cell phone for them to be on Facebook or social media, it's extremely detrimental. Why? Because they say when children are now browsing like this on social media, their brains are getting wired at that speed, right? Seeing one incident after another very quickly, and that speed that's coded into their neurons. So now, because of that, if you go shopping with them, they will not tolerate standing in the queue. Because standing in the queue means I need to stay there still and do nothing. And the neurons, they're saying next slide, next slide, next slide, next slide. And therefore they get agitated. I need to do something. I can't stand here. Or they get, their attention cannot be focused. They keep going from one place to another, one aspect to another. All because of how they are brought up. So Dhruva also, Prince Dhruva, unfortunately, had to go through this traumatic experience. But he was fortunate. Why? The little boy felt insulted by this act of his stepmother. Nor did his father make any protest, for he was too attached to his second wife. After this incident, Prince Dhruva went to his own mother and complained. His real mother also could not take any step against this insulting behavior, and so she wept. The boy inquired from his mother how he could sit on the royal throne of his father, and the poor queen replied that only the Lord could help him. That was the blessing. So a good lesson is, you may be in so many challenges, in so many difficulties, in so many scenarios where nobody can do anything. Do not despair. There is one person that can always do something. That is Krishna. There is another person that can always do something. And that's Srila Prabhupada. His pure representatives. They're also empowered. They're not ordinary personalities. So in Dhruva's case, he was fortunate. The boy inquired where the Lord could be seen. And the queen replied that it is said that the Lord is sometimes seen by the great sages in the dense forest. She wasn't a devotee. She didn't know Krishna consciousness. She was a simple maidservant. Okay, sages, they say he's in the forest. Maybe that's the only place. And child prince decided to go into the forest to perform severe penances in order to achieve his objective. His objective was, how can I sit on the throne of my... Prince Dhruva performed a stringent type of penance under the instruction of his spiritual master, Sri Narad Muni, who was specifically deputed for this purpose by the personality of God. Dhruva was a child, 5-year-old. He goes into the forest. He doesn't know what to do. But he was sincere to find God, even for the wrong reason. It's the sincerity of purpose. And when the Lord saw his sincerity at 5 years, because the forest is not a place for a child, Krishna told Narad Muni, for helping. Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Beach. By the mercy of Krishna, we get Guru. And by the mercy of Guru, you get Krishna. So here we see by the mercy of Krishna, Narad Muni is coming to Dhruva Maharaj. And Narad Muni tested Dhruva. He said, Dhruva, go back to the palace, go back to your playground. This is not playground, it's a forest. And Dhruva Maharaj, he told Narad Muni, if you want to instruct me in how to find Krishna, you can help me. Vishnu, otherwise, hey, you also go. So Narad Muni tested, was saying, he saw that he's serious, and he guided him. And he perfected his life. Prince Dhruva was initiated by Narad into chanting the hymns composed of 12 syllables, namely Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Lord Vasudeva incarnated himself as Prishnigarbha, personality of Godhead with 4 hands, and awarded the prince a specific planet above the 7 stars. So this was the incarnation of the Lord. The Vishnu form called Prishnigarbha. And the Lord gave Dhruva Maharaj his Vaikuntha planet, because his desire was, I wanted a planet greater than Brahma, greater than my grandfather. And Brahma's got the whole universe, material universe. So what's greater? Well, then a spiritual planet. So the Lord gave him a spiritual planet. Prince Dhruva, after achieving success in his undertaking, saw the Lord face to face, and he was satisfied that all his needs were fulfilled. The planet awarded to Prince Dhruva Maharaj is a fixed Vaikuntha planet, installed in the material atmosphere by the will of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. This planet, although within the material world, will not be annihilated at any time of devastation, but will remain fixed in its place. And because it is a Vaikuntha planet never to be annihilated, it is worshipped even by the denizens of the 7 stars situated below the Dhruva planet, as well as the planets which are even above the Dhruva planet. Maharishi Brigu's planet is situated above Dhruva planet. So when you look out, you see the pole star. That pole star is Dhruva Loka, and that's the fixed planet. And that fixed planet is basically like the pivot of all the universes. And it's the only spiritual planet, Vaikuntha, within the material universe. So a very, very blessed event. And here the point is, Krishna can do anything. If Krishna wants a Vaikuntha planet in the material world, well, who's there to say no? He can't do that. He can do anything. He's independent. He's Swarat. And he's all powerful. So Krishna can do absolutely anything, whatever he desires. He's totally independent and powerful. So the Lord incarnated himself as Prishnigarbha just to satisfy a pure devotee of the Lord. And Prince Dhruva achieved this perfection simply by chanting the hymns mentioned above, after being initiated by another pure devotee. Narada, a serious personality can thus achieve the highest perfection of meeting the Lord and attain his objective simply by being guided by a pure devotee who automatically approaches by dint of one's serious determination to meet the Lord by all means. Just as Dhruva Maharaj was fortunate to have Narad Muni to instruct him, and Dhruva followed the instructions, we are also blessed. Why? Because we also have such a pure devotee. And we are also being guided by the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. So if we simply follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, then without fail, our objectives will also be met. We will also see Krishna face to face. We read in today's verses, Prabhupada is saying, one lifetime you can make it. At the end of this life, you can make it. In one conversation, the devotee was lamenting that he does not know whether he's going to think of Krishna at a time of death. And Srila Prabhupada responded, that's my, Prabhupada said, your duty is to be Krishna conscious. Your duty is to follow my instructions, to be Krishna conscious, to engage in devotional service nicely and sincerely. My duty is to see that you go back to God. My duty is what will happen at the end of life. So that you don't worry about that. You sincerely do what you are instructed to do. The rest, Krishna and Prabhupada will do. So we are as fortunate as Dhruva Maharaj, that by the mercy of Krishna, he got Guru, and by the mercy of Guru, he got Krishna. So by the mercy of Krishna, we got Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Krishna was sent, Prabhupada was sent by Krishna to come to this world. And it so happened that we have taken birth in this world around the same time to get Prabhupada's blessings, Prabhupada's mercy. And yes, we may not have seen Prabhupada face to face directly. So we may say, well, that's unfortunate. But the Vani and Vapu of the spiritual master is non-different. And in fact, the Vani is more important than the Vapu. Because the Vapu has a limitation in that it's manifested and then unmanifested. But the Vani is eternally there. So as long as we associate with Srila Prabhupada's instructions, we are associating with Prabhupada directly. And we can get all the benefits of directly associating with his physical form through associating with his instructions, non-different. The description of Prince Dhruva's activities can be read in detail in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 9. Yadvenam utpantagatam dvija vakya vajram nishplusta porusha bhagavan nirayet patantam tatvartito jagati putra padam Chelave dugda vasuni vasuda sakalani yena Majvena went astray from the path of righteousness, and the Brahmanas chastised him by the thunderbolt curse. By this, King Vena was burnt with his good deeds and opulences, and was en route to hell. The Lord, by his causeless mercy, descended as his son by the name of Prithu, that delivered the condemned King Vena from hell and exploited the earth by drawing all kinds of crops as produce. According to the system of Varnashram Dharma, the pious and the learned Brahmanas were the natural guardians of society. The Brahmanas, by their learned labor of love, would instruct the administrator kings how to rule the country in complete righteousness. And thus the process would go on as a perfect welfare state. The king or the Kshatriya administrators would always consult a council of learned Brahmanas. They are never autocratic monarchs. Scriptures like the Manu Samhita and other authorized books of great sages were guiding principles for ruling the subjects. And there was no need for less intelligent persons to manufacture a code of law in the name of democracy. The less intelligent mass of people have very little knowledge of their own welfare, as a child has very little knowledge of its future well-being. The experienced father guides the innocent child towards the path of progress, and the childlike mass people need similar guidance. Standard welfare codes are already there in Manu Samhita and other Vedic literatures. The learned Brahmanas would advise the king in terms of those standard books of knowledge and with reference to particular situation of time and place. So this was the Vedic system, very wonderful. That the king, even though he was the ruler, but he had counselors. Dashran Maharaj had 8 different ministers, and each of the ministers were expert in different fields, so that he had holistic knowledge about how to manage his kingdom. And how to manage, this is already there in Manu Samhita, the law books of mankind. So we don't need to reinvent. We just simply have to have brahmanas who know these codes, and they can then, according to time, place, give the instructions on how to manage the society very, very nicely. Not like different parties come into power and then they create their own rules and guidelines. No, those are defective, and they don't work. Or at least for long term, we will find that there will always be shortcomings. Such brahmanas were not paid servants of the king, and therefore they had the strength to dictate to the king on the principles of the scriptures. The system continues even up to the time of Maharaj Chandragupta, and the Brahmana Chanakya was his unpaid prime minister. Maharaj Vena did not adhere to this principle of ruling, and he disobeyed the learned Brahmanas. The broad-minded Brahmanas were not self-interested, but looked to the interests of the complete welfare of all the subjects. They wanted to chastise King Vena for his misconduct, and so prayed to the Almighty Lord, as well as curse the king. So this is the power of the Brahmanas. If the king doesn't want to obey, the king wants to do his own thing like King Vena, no problem. The Brahmanas cursed him, he died. So this is how the Vedic system was so wonderful, protecting all sides, protecting all areas for the welfare of the subjects. Why? Because there's a higher purpose that all of them need to be guided in a Krishna conscious way. They wanted to chastise King Vena for his misconduct, and so they prayed to the Almighty Lord as well as curse the king. Long life, obedience, good reputation, righteousness, prospects of being promoted to higher planets, and blessings of great personalities are all vanquished simply by disobedience to a great soul. So this is what happens when we offend Brahmanas, when we offend great devotees. Long life, obedience, good reputation, righteousness, prospects of being promoted to high planets, blessings of great personalities are all vanquished. One should strictly try to follow in the footsteps of great souls. Maharaj Vena became a king undoubtedly due to his past deeds of righteousness, but because he willfully neglected the great souls, he was punished by the loss of all of the above-mentioned acquisitions. So here's an example of the point we covered in the first verse that we covered today, or at least in last week's section, and we re-quoted that. Prabhupada says, choice and discrimination. Due to previous piety, King Vena was posted as a king. Due to his current choices and discrimination, he went against the Brahmanas, and he had to suffer consequence. Nobody is free. Nobody is excluded from their consequence, their choices. In the Vamana Purana, the history of Maharaj Vena and his degradation is fully described. When Maharaj Prithu heard about the hellish condition of his father Vena, who was suffering from leprosy in a family of Malecha, he at once brought the former king to Kurukshetra for his purification and relieved him of all sufferings. Maharaj Prithu, the incarnation of God, descended by the praise of the Brahmanas to rectify the disorders of the earth. He produced all kinds of crops, but at the same time, he performed the duty of a son who delivered his father from the hellish conditions. The word putra means one who delivers from hell, or put. That is a worthy son. So very wonderful. Here we see how the Lord is appearing as the son and doing his duty. We find Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. He's the Supreme Lord himself, but he performed his duty very, very wonderfully, very dutifully. 10. Nabe Rasha Vrasha Rishaba Asha Sudevi Sunur Yove Chachara Samadrigjada yogacharyam yat paramaham syam rishaya padam amananti shwasta prashanta karana parimukta sangha. The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Naba, and was known as Rishabdev. He performed materialistic yoga to equibalance the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in oneself and is completely satisfied. There are many types of mystic performances for self-realization. The process of Jada Yoga is also one accepted by authorities. This Jada Yoga involves practicing becoming like a dumb stone and not being affected by material reactions. Just as a stone is indifferent to all kinds of attacks and re-attacks of external situations, similarly, one practices Jada Yoga by tolerating voluntary infliction of pain upon the material body. Such yogis, out of many self-infliction methods, practice plucking out hairs on their heads without shaving and without any instrumental help. But the real purpose of such Jada Yoga practice is to get free from all material affection and to be completely situated in the self. So there are different practices. And here's one example, Jada Yoga. And it's not that it's not allowed. Here we find King Rishabdev coming, Lord Rishabdev coming and embracing that process according to that time, place, and circumstance. So there's many such processes, but the ultimate goal, the objective of that process is self-realization. At the last stage of his life, Emperor Rishabdev wandered like a dumb madman, unaffected by all kinds of bodily mistreatment. Seeing him like a madman, wandering naked with long hair and long beard, less intelligent men, children and men in the street used to spit on him and urinate on his body. He used to lie in his own stool and never move. But his stool was aromatic like fragrant flowers, and a saintly person would recognize him as Paramahamsa, one who is one in the highest state of human perfection. You can never judge the internal conscious evolution or elevation by the externals. If you are to see King Rishabdev, Lord Rishabdev, you think he's a madman. But there was one symptom that was noticeable, and that was his stool was fragrant. So naturally, somebody who's intelligent would understand, well, why is his stool so fragrant? He looks like a madman. That would imply he's not so crazy after all. Well, he's a Paramahamsa. So there are certain symptoms like that. One devotee shares, when Srila Prabhupada is leaving this world, he was right there by the bedside. No, actually, he mentioned, you said Prabhupada was leaving Zoe and Prabhupada left. So immediately after Prabhupada left, then they told the devotees all to leave. So all the devotees left the room. And he was there by the bedside, sitting with a few of the other senior devotees, making now arrangements. So they had to take Prabhupada's clothes off, give Prabhupada a bath. And at that time, Prabhupada, was wearing a napkin in that state. So the devotees took the napkin out, and they smelt this beautiful aroma, fragrant aroma. And the devotee that was sitting there by the bedside, he said he also took the napkin and he, put the napkin on his face, and he just kept smelling the aroma coming from Prabhupada's body. So even if there was stool or urine, even that was smelling so spiritual, aromatic, just like in the case of King Rishabdev. Why? Because they're not ordinary personalities. They're transcendental personalities. They've transcended the bounds of the body, conditioned body, beyond the modes. And therefore, such experiences are there. One who is not able to make his stool fragrant should not, however, imitate King Rishabdev. Yeah. So you can test. If you're still not convinced, you can apply this litmus test to see, should I do this Jada Yoga? Well, just test your scent of your stool and see, you'll know immediately. The practice of Jada Yoga was possible for Rishabdev and others on the same level of perfection. But such an uncommon practice is impossible for ordinary men. The real purpose of Jada Yoga, as mentioned here in this verse, is prashanta karana, or subduing the senses. The whole process of yoga, under whatever heading it may be, is to control the unbridled material senses and thus prepare oneself for self-realization. Yeah, it's not about getting healthy. It's not about attracting the opposite gender. It's not about exercising. It's not about intensifying the bodily demands and conditioned bodily relations. No, it's about controlling senses. In this age specifically, this Jada Yoga cannot be of any practical value. But on the other hand, the practice of Bhakti Yoga is feasible because it is just suitable for this age. This simple method of hearing from the right source, Srimad Bhagavatam, will lead one to the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Prabhupada is giving blessings and direction. This simple method of hearing. Don't need to stand on your head. Just simple method of hearing from the right source, the Bhagavatam, will lead one to the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Rishabdev was the king. Rishabdev was the son of King Anabi, and the grandson of King Agnidra. And he was the father of King Bharat, after whose name this planet Earth was called Bharatvansh. Rishabdev's mother was also known as Meru Devi. Although her name is mentioned here as Sudevi, it is sometimes proposed that Sudevi was another wife of King Nabi. But since King Rishabdev is mentioned elsewhere as the son of Meru Devi, it is clear that Meru Devi and Sudevi are the same person under different names. 11. Shastre mamasa bhagavan hayash shirashasto shakshat sa yagya purushas tapaniya varnam chando mayo makahamaya makamayo kila devatmam vacho bhuvur utsati swashatosya nastam. The Lord appeared as the higher Griva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, Brahma. He is the personified sacrifices, and the hue of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well, and the super soul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils. The Vedic hymns are generally meant for sacrifices performed by fruitive workers who want to satisfy the demigods to achieve their fruitive results. But the Lord is the personified sacrifices and personified Vedic hymns. Therefore, one who is directly a devotee of the Lord is a person who has automatically both served the purpose of the sacrifices and pleased the demigods. The devotees of the Lord may not perform any sacrifice or may not please the demigods as per the Vedic injunctions, and still the devotees are on a higher level than the fruitive workers or the worshippers of different demigods. So by being a devotee, by practicing Krishna consciousness, you are achieving pleasing all the demigods, which you cannot do even if you are to perform all the sacrifices, because it's impossible. Generally, like we mentioned last week, there are the 5 predominating forms of worshiping the different demigods. What about all the other demigods that are there, that are providing so many facilities? So to please all the branches, leaves, and twigs on the tree, the easiest and most simplest way is simply pour water on the roots. A devotee simply pours water on the root, the supreme personality of God, it serves him and satisfy all the demigods. Therefore, we don't need to worry about upsetting any of the demigods. And if one of the demigods become upset, like Indra became upset, then he will have to face the wrath of Krishna and be taught a lesson. But they will be satisfied. And even all the sacrifices that are performed simply by practicing Krishna consciousness, all that's included. Last verse for today. Matsyo yuganta samaye manuno palada shoni mayo nikila jiva nikaya keta vishram sitan urubaya salile mukhanme adaya tatra vijahara havedamargam. At the end of the millennium, the future Vaivasvata Manu of the name Satyavrata would see that the Lord in the fish incarnation is the shelter of all kinds of living entities, up to those in the earthly planets. Because of my fear of the vast water at the end of the millennium, the Vedas came out of my mouth, Brahma's mouth, and the Lord enjoys those vast waters and protects the Vedas. During one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, and at the end of each Manu, there is a devastation up to the earthly planets. And the vast water is fearful even to Brahma. So in the previous life of Vaivasvata Manu, such devastation would be seen by him. There would be many other incidents also, such as the killing of the famous Shankasura. This foretelling is by the past experience of Brahmaji, who knew that in that fearful, devastating scene, the Vedas would come out of his mouth. But the Lord, in his fish incarnation, would save not only the Vedas, but also all living entities, namely demigods, animals, men, and great sages. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today we covered 12 verses. Next week, we will continue further with more of these incarnations. So Lord Brahma is basically giving synopsis to Narad Muni of these different incarnations. And we see how beautifully Prabhupada is bringing out the important instructions and lessons from these different incarnations. So we can imbibe those instructions. And as we proceed to the Bhagavatam, these different incarnations, their whole pastime, histories, lessons will all be described. Now it's some of these pastimes is just given in synopsis for the pleasure of Narad Muni and for our pleasure. And we'll continue next week with the balance of these incarnations. Are there any questions or comments anyone has? Sangeeta says, thank you, and over to you. Salini Kanta says, beautiful class. Thank you very much. Thank you for your feedback. As we become more and more purified, and when we become completely purified, one day when we read these same verses, we will see the incarnations in our heart. will, like a movie, will be right in the pastime, witnessing. This is the glory, this is the beauty of us going deeper and deeper and deeper. Mananda Prabhu says, thank you very much for Mataji and Prabhu for sharing Srimad Bhagavatam Nectar with us. Thank you. It is our pleasure to associate with the Bhagavatam and to systematically share and go through for our own purification. And in this way, if we simply, as you said, spend some time, because life does not stop, time does not stop. And we see Prabhupada reminding us again and again of what we should be doing and what can we achieve. So let us not waste this one life that is so inundated with benedictions coming from Srila Prabhupada in the disciplic succession. If someone is not Krishna conscious and they die not Krishna conscious, it's not their fault. But if you have Krishna consciousness and you die not being Krishna conscious, and that is definitely a fault. Because we know we have this knowledge. And therefore, it behooves us to take full advantage for ourselves. And when we know what benediction, what advantage we're going to get, we will not be able to hold ourselves but share it with others. Because everyone, every living entity is seeking this same benediction. And we have received it. So let us try to share it with others, and in this way, perfect our lives. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande Hari.